Work. All right, thank you. All right, Lee, thank you for the introduction and for setting this up. My name is David and I do work for PackBack. So today we'll probably just give you a quick overview of what PackBack is and what PackBack does. And then if it's something you're interested in, we'll have a sign-up sheet and we can have one-on-one meetings moving forward, discussing individual options on how to use PackBack for you specifically. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat. Lee, if you wouldn't mind monitoring that, that'd be great. Thank you so much. I will not be able to see the chat, but yeah, we can get started then. And I think at the end, we can just do the questions at the end, unless there's something really pertinent that you feel like is worth it. Yeah, okay.
You can minimize the view and thing.
Sure. All right. So PackBack is an educational technology. We've been in the educational technology field for 7 years now, and we essentially have two facets to our technology. The first is PackBack Questions. This is our award-winning inquiry-based discussion board. And what makes us different than Canvas is two things. One, we're a student-led discussion forum. They ask the questions they're curious about course material and choose which peers to respond to. And two, we're powered by what we call instructional AI. So as the students type, they're getting proactive real-time feedback on how to develop both their questions and responses. So what instructors find is that there's a more in-depth discussion than what they've seen on a traditional LMS. To go back to the instructional AI for a moment, everyone has heard of ChatGPT. We've had some other department meetings here at Memphis since I've been here, and it seems like ChatGPT is a pretty big cause of concern. The difference between what ChatGPT does is known as generative AI, where someone puts in a prompt and it spits out an answer. Again, what we at PackBack do is called instructional AI. So the thoughts, the content, the ideas is 100% the students. We're just helping them find a way to express the content in a more palatable way. And then PackBack Deep Dives. Deep Dives is essentially a digital writing center. So this will be for your longer form writing assignments, reflection papers, case studies, things like that. And this really is a digital writing center. So now they're getting even more real-time feedback on all the red pen mechanics, grammar, flow, structure, sourcing, quality of sources, formatting, so that they can focus on their content and ideas, and you as the instructor can focus on their content and ideas. We are being used by 12 professors currently at Memphis, and we've also recently partnered with your bookstore, and we are available through the Tiger Smart Start program. What this means is as long as the students are enrolled in that Tiger Smart Start program, there is no additional cost to PackBack for them. We've also completed a rigorous series of reviews, and we've become an integrated technology inside of Canvas. That means everything you and your students do inside of PackBack will sync automatically with your Canvas shell. Just a little bit about our pedagogical foundation. Big believers in Bloom's taxonomy. I assume you're all familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. I was not before I started working at this company, but most ed tech focuses on lower level Bloom's activities, testing students' ability to remember course material. Multiple choice questions. On PackBack, though, they're asking their own questions and completing writing assignments. So these higher order activities are more often difficult to manage or grade. That's where our AI comes in and does a lot of the heavy lifting of the grading for you as well. All right, let's take a look at PackBack. That's enough slides for now. So this is an introduction to special education course. I'm just going to toggle the presenter mode on because these are real students. We're FERPA compliant, so we just have to anonymize their names. But as you can see, PackBack is divided into modules. So we have start dates, we have end dates, and this is a great way to have a more guided approach. This is what we're talking about in class this week, and this is what I want you asking your questions in regards to. So PackBack 6 just ended the 24th, a couple days ago. We can click into this one. Up top, you can see what's due for the assignment. They're required to ask one original question and respond to 2 peers with a minimum score of 80, which we'll get into in a moment. Below that is the opportunity for you to, again, take a more guided approach. You can have these guideposts set up. This instructor has not chosen to take advantage of this, but this is, again, just an information. You can embed pictures, graphs, links in this guidepost. This is what we're talking about in class this week. This is what I want you asking your questions in regards to. Another option, and what this instructor has done is, you can see this is an instructor asked question. You can ask your own questions and then have the students respond to that, and that would count as one of their responses for the week. So in this instance, it would be, they would ask one original question, respond to the instructor, and respond to one peer. Below that, everything is student generated content. So as I scroll, we like to say PackBack is really intuitive. It's really easy to use. We like to say it's a social media skin, but an academic backbone. Up top again, there are several ways to sort the feed. new, hot, undiscovered, quality. I like to sort by active for the sake of today's argument. That's where the most responses live, so we can click that. And again, these are the student ones, so we can say, this is a student asked question, how can educators better implement life skills in general education? Here is the initial question the student has posed, and then this is the description of that question. They've put a source in here as well. And now, what makes PackBack different than Canvas is the level of responses, because what we've heard from so many professors in Memphis that used Canvas discussion board is this initial post maybe you all thought out, but the subsequent replies are more often, great post, I agree. If you know, Liz nodding your head. So on PackBack, we'll auto-moderate those weak and effective responses, but we're also providing the amount of proactive feedback to help the students develop their responses. So as you can see, here's the initial amazing question, but then they're going in and explaining why they're responding this way, and with a different source put in here. Same thing here as well. And so Lee, you're in front of me. How does this level of interaction among students compare to what you've seen on Canvas in the past?
I teach statistics.
Okay.
Maybe I don't want to talk. But I have other folks online might have used question words.
So the way we're able to get this level of discussion is again through our proactive feedback, and that's what I'll show you now. So when the students want to ask a question, they'll click the big red box, or when they want to respond to a peer or the teacher, the instructor, they'll click add a response here. So today we'll click the big red box, asking a question, and we're going to add some demo text, so we don't have to suffer through my typing skills. But the first thing they're prompted to do is ask a question. They add a description. They're encouraged to post sources. And then on the right is where the proactive feedback kicks in, as well as the score that we saw earlier. So this instructor has set their minimum score to 80. The curiosity score is a score of 1 to 100, but it's not reflective of the A, B, C, D scales. It means a gamification. So for intro level courses, we usually set that between a 50 and 60. Upper level courses between a 70 and 80. What that is a way to raise the effort metric. So they have to meet that minimum curiosity score for both their questions and responses in order to receive credit for their post. And then how they build that score up and what they receive feedback on are what we call the 4 C's. The first is curiosity. It says your question appears closed-ended. We want them asking open-ended questions because that's how you generate a dialogue. Give a nice detailed description. Credibility, good job citing a source. This is a good way for them to start practicing adding sources to things, to look for credible sources. Communication, good use of formatting and great use of active voice in your writing. I really like that. And then convention. This is where they can check for spelling and grammatical errors. Then PackBack also has an internal and external plagiarism checker that's checked after posting, as well as the instructor will receive a percentage likelihood the student submission contains any AI generated text from ChatGPT or some like technology. So now let's say the students were up against the deadline and they're responding to their peers and they type out a really short, terse response. Great post, I agree. They click submit post. They're going to get a pop-up that says you have not met the minimum curiosity score requirements. You need to revise and resubmit in order to receive credit for this before the deadline. So that's how we're able to auto-moderate those weak and effective responses. As far as what instructors spend their time on PackBack doing, most instructors are going to spend about 20 to 30 minutes per week on our platform per 50 students because we give you really scalable feedback. And what that looks like is this. In your 20 to 30 minutes per week, you're going to find 4 or 5 really good posts. Let's say this is one of the posts you really like for the week. You're going to click this drop-down menu here, click give feedback. Now we can click this praise button. So this is where you can feature the post. You can pin it to the top of the page so it's the first thing everyone sees. Then you write a little bit about why this is important and what the student did well. So now all the other students are going to see this and they can say, okay, this is the type of thing the instructor's looking for. I can do this. And they start to emulate their behavior off of that. Conversely, if you're in your 20 to 30 minutes per week and you find something that's way off base, there's a private coaching feature as well. This will go out to the student individually, how to edit this post to make it more effective and what they should keep in mind for future posts. So again, we're publicly praising and privately coaching. And then as far as grading goes, PackBack takes care of the grading for you as well. So we can click into view gradebook. And again, the typical cadence is 1 question, 2 responses. As long as they do that and meet that minimum curiosity score that we would set together, they get full credit for the week and it syncs automatically with your Canvas shell. So there's no extra steps for you to take. I think that is a good place to stop for now to answer any questions about this before we move on to deep dives. Does anyone have any questions specifically about the discussion board? Looking good? All right. I will continue on to deep dives then, which is again our digital writing center. So deep dives is newer for us. We rolled it out for beta testing in the fall of 2022. And those instructors that beta tested it for us completed a white paper study. And what you're seeing now are the results of that study. So this is for writing specific. So it's 11% more A's compared to historical grades, an 89% increase in instructor satisfaction with student writing, and a 30% faster average grading time per essay for instructors as well. This time, what I'll show you is what it looks like from the instructor perspective when you go to set up a writing assignment. Then I'll show you what it looks like from the student perspective when they go to write. So the first thing you would do is the instructors click manage assignments. Now we're going to add an assignment. Now we're going to create a prompt. This is where you have these writing assignments ready to go. So this seems a little daunting, but it's really just a lot of copy and pasting. You copy in the title, short description, and a longer, more specific description about what you want your students to accomplish. Below that is where our AI starts to kick in. These guiding questions are optional, but what these are specific questions you want your students to answer in their writing. And then when you go to grade, our AI will highlight where they answer those questions, so you can jump right to the important content that way. Below that, recommended resources, books, journals, websites, anything with an external link you'd like your students to reference in their writing, you can add those here. Once you've done so, you can click Save and Use, and now we're going to create a rubric. So these things here that I'm highlighting, this is everything the students are going to receive proactive real-time feedback on. This is everything you as the instructor will receive a PackBack suggested score for. The first thing you see is word count and depth. You assign a minimum number of words, maximum number of words, and a point value associated with it. If it's not something you're grading for in a particular assignment, you want to click it and it goes away. Word count and depth also checks for repetitiveness. If students are copying and pasting one paragraph from the beginning to the end of their paper, we'll catch that. And if they're trying to pad the word count like that. Below that is research and citations. You put the minimum number of sources you want them to use. Then we're also helping them understand what credible sources are as well. I can show you what that looks like in a moment. Below that, formatting. This is what I struggled with when I was in college. Right now, we support the current versions of MLA, APA in Chicago. I'm guessing MLA for the most part. APA, huh? All right. Stand corrected. Below that, the last two AI assisted categories are grammar mechanics and flow and structure. Below that is the instructor grade rubric criteria. So think of this as the content and ideas. And you can see how customizable this is. You can label it whatever you want. You can add different criteria on as well. So if you want to grade, have a separate grade for the introductory paragraph, the body, the conclusion, things like that, you can add up to 8 different levels of criteria. You can weight this higher because obviously this is the meat and potatoes of the assignment. And then there's 4 levels for each criterion. There's an exemplary level, accomplished, developing, and beginning. And you write a little bit about what each of those levels look like to you. That way the students know what an A paper looks like, B, C, D, F papers essentially. Once you've added all these, you can click Save and Use again. And now it'll get populated to the main page where it'll look like these boxes here. And now this is what the students are seeing. So the students will click into here. They see the title, the short description, the longer, more specific description, the guiding questions, those specific questions you want to make sure they answer in their writing, recommended resources, and they can see the details, when it's due, the requirements, how much everything is weighted. We can click and see full rubric. And this is where they can see what an exemplary, accomplished, developing, and beginning submission looks like in your eyes. And one thing to note here as well is that besides myself, we have a team of experience managers at every university we have a presence at. Each experience manager is an ex-educator, and now they work for PackBack. And their job is to set you up a syllabus language. They give you your first day of class presentation, why you're bringing PackBack into your course and what you hope your students get out of it. And then they can give you some templated rubrics, templated things like that to edit and use to make it your own as well. Because obviously it's just easier to not reinvent the wheel, but just to use a wheel that already works. So now the students know what's required of them. Time to start writing. So they'll click up here to My Draft. We'll add some demo text again. This time it's about Baroque music because one of our engineers likes Baroque music. And then on the right, again, you can see where the feedback starts to kick in. The idea behind this is that they're writing inside of PackBack so that the feedback comes little bit by little bit. So they can copy and paste an entire document like I just did into PackBack, but then the feedback we found is overwhelming. It's better to type in PackBack and get that feedback little bit by little bit. So they're getting the feedback on all these, the red pen categories, the 5 that we have. For today, we'll just look at grammar mechanics, look at the grammar check, And now you have unreviewed grammatical errors in 16 places. So we can skip to these grammatical faults. So the first one is in regards to is not proper English. So we can have them, they have to go in, change it to whatever they choose, but then they also can have explained to me why that it was not proper English, why they needed this. So unlike Grammarly now, where it simply fixes everything for them, the students are going to have to go in, think critically, fix each mistake one by one. And it's really the amount of effort they will put in to see those corrections and why. But this way it becomes not a crutch, but actually a learning tool so they can write more effectively regardless of what class they're going to be going into. Now that they've gotten all their feedback, they've turned in a really solid paper, a really solid first draft, it is going to be time to grade. So we can click into submissions here. We'll edit this one. And the same piece about Baroque music on the left. And then on the right, you can see the PackBack suggested scores for all the red pen mechanics. So PackBack says this student should get 10 out of 10 for grammar mechanics. But that being said, if you read through their piece and you feel like they only deserve an 8 out of 10, you're the instructor, that's your prerogative, give them an 8 out of 10. They won't see the suggested scores ahead of time, so you won't have to have that conversation. They'll only see the final grade. That being said, though, most instructors really like the uniformity of this because now there's no more guesswork about what's an A paper for one student is a C paper for another student. This makes everything fair and equitable. Below that, this is where we want you spending your time. We want you to be able to grade solely on the content and ideas. So you give them a score based on their content and ideas. You leave comments, feedback. We have inline commenting as well. So you can leave comments throughout specific places in their writing, color coded even. And up top, we have our AI grading assistant tools. This is where the smart highlighting features live, the guiding questions. So PackBack says this student has answered this question in 3 places. We can click this. And PackBack will highlight in green where the student has answered that question. We also have our originality report. And this is obviously a demo text that everyone at PackBack can submit hundreds of times. So the plagiarism risk is quite high. But we are checking internally and externally. Again, you can see how many source where they're matched. And this is what the AI generated content looks like as well. So you'll get a low, moderate, or high likelihood the student submission contains any AI generated text. And then some suggestions on what to do with that as well. Because we really do look at it as a learning moment and not a gotcha moment. All right, at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. Lee, I'd like to hear your thoughts because you're the only person in the room with me, but.
Sure. Let me come up here so everyone has. So actually, I'm curious. So you mentioned that it's rolled into Tiger
Smart Start,
which is for undergrads. Our grad students don't have access to that.
Yes.
So are any of the current users using this with grad courses?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work differentially for them cost wise? And then my last thought is that we have students who, so you mentioned using it with a class. Could we use this with something like we're getting a student who's working on their thesis or their dissertation proposal and they're really struggling with the mechanics? Is this something that can be used in that context?
Yes. So to answer your first question, if not going through the Tiger Smart Start program, it's a cost of $39 or $49 per student, depending on how much of our technology you want to implement. I'm sorry? Yeah, student-facing costs, unless the department, we can do department deals as well. That's something that we could discuss if the department wants to fund all of PackBack or half PackBack. It's up to the department. Again, for the undergrads, though, as long as they're enrolled in a Tiger Smart Start program, there's no additional cost to them. And then Lee, your next question was more of if they need help in a non-class specific, right? So if you look at the top, we actually have this writing lab. So the rubrics, they're tied to your specific rubric, those writing assignments. But we also have this what we call writing lab, where you can select what kind of document you're working on: persuasive essays, correspondence, reports, creative personal writing, pretty much anything in there. And you need to follow a particular style, you can put that in there as well. And let's just say that for today, start writing. And so this isn't mapped to a rubric or to the criterion, but this is where they can get that same feedback for all those red pen mechanics. But there now it's just a more free flowing type of thing. So they can write their dissertations in there. They can write whatever they want in there. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions from the virtual folks?
Yeah, I kind of want to know, do we just have access to this or do we have to do something to make it work?
So you do have access to it. It's a tool to be used within Canvas. You can do it yourself, but what we really do is we help you with it. So we can schedule a time for you, myself and your experience manager. Her name is Jordan, on this campus. And we can get it all set up for you. We take care of emailing the bookstore, telling them you want to add PackBack to whatever course you want to use it in. And then that's where we get that ball rolling too with your experience, with your relationship with the experience manager. So that way, again, they stay with you throughout the entire time you're using PackBack. This isn't something you sign up for and we forget about. They stay with you throughout the semester, answer any questions and set you up for success as well. So that is something you're curious about. That's what we kind of mentioned in the start of this too, where we can schedule a time one-on-one for you and I to meet moving forward. That way, if you bring your syllabus with you to that meeting, we can go over that together and see how PackBack can fit in specifically with your course. And that way, and then after that, we'll meet with Jordan and get everything set up.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
You're happy to help.
There's a question.
Mhm. So there is no limit on the number of course that is given free access. That is part of the beauty of the partnership with the Tiger Smart Start program. As long as they're enrolled in that, there's no cost to them for however many students. So for those undergrad courses. The smiley faces and that's touch.
The reason I asked is Sean and I teach our 7521 intro to research course where students write a proposal. So it's a very heavy intensive writing.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the beauty of PackBack as well, is that we do have all level of classes using it. So we have intro level undergrad courses, we have upper level courses. One of the instructors that I work with, she was actually going for her PhD dissertation, and one of the selling points for her was that she wanted to write her dissertation in PackBack. So that kind of gave her the momentum to sign up for PackBack as well, because regardless of what level you are, you need help writing. This isn't something, writing is not something you learn in a freshman composition course and forget about. It's something you continually have to hone throughout your collegiate and professional career.
A very quiet group. You guys don't have any other questions?
Yeah, if no one else has any other questions, I think what we can do is I can send a follow-up email to this entire group with a link to my calendar. So that way you can schedule some one-on-one time with me. Please bring your syllabus to that meeting, and then we can go over how PackBack can fit in to your courses specifically.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone. End the meeting.